Welcome to Pop Culture Content Creation for Beginners. I'm your moderator. My name is Alix Catherine, and I will be running this shindig today.
Hello, I'm Dani Gage. I am a TTRPG player and cosplayer based out of LA, and yeah, that's about it.
I'm Andrew Linde. I do a bunch of different podcasts. I do podcast editing. I've been podcasting over 10 years now. A lot of different shows about movies and TV shows. It's fun.
Hi, my name is Anais. I'm an LA-based actor and content creator. I'm a game master for TTRPG actual plays, and I'm a player on TTRPG actual plays too. I make TikTok content, and yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Lollipop Heidi, and oh my god.
Yeah, me too.
One more try.
Hi, I'm Lollipop Heidi, and I am a professional cosplayer.
And I'm JPG. I am a pop culture educator and consultant. I run the consulting firm Intermyth, which is if you want to start content creation and you feel marginalized, we help you start from ground zero. I did want to do something real quick. In the back, actually, the Road to the Con is actually covering our panel today. So a round of applause for the Road to the Con.
Yeah, but now it's in their video, so they're going to know that we know that they know.
Oh, yeah, well, this is just full inception at
Yeah.
this point? Okay.
So we're just going to start from the beginning with how you guys knew what kind of content you wanted to create. So Anais, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very easy. I come from a family of gamers, of TTRPG players. My uncle owns a friendly local game store. My dad has been playing TTRPGs, and we started gaming as a family probably when I was around 18. So it was very natural. At the same time, I was getting my BFA in acting, so I was learning how to play games, and then I was going to acting classes, and then I was running games for theater people. And you know, if you've played with actors before, you know it's a totally different experience. So you know, I'm very fortunate to have come from a family that supports me in that way, and that I'm able to creatively collaborate with.
Andrew, what about you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I've always loved movies. I love talking about movies. I actually started I had a high school program where we did video editing, and that kind of led me into editing content that way. And then at a certain point, I did some audio editing, and I said, oh, this is way easier than video. And that was right when podcasting was having one of its many booms, and I just jumped right in. I grabbed some friends and I said, let's start a podcast. And then I kept doing that over and over and over again. But always, you know, about content that I cared about, movies or certain TV shows, anything that I really was passionate about.
And JPG?
I was just really tired of not seeing people who looked like me. And I wanted to get into content creation because I knew that somebody else behind me was going to be like, oh, like I don't see anybody that looks like me in the space, so I'm definitely not going to get into this space. So it was really important to me. Well, at first it was important to get my voice out there, and I started in podcasting, and then it was much more important for me to get my face on things, because when you see a reflection of yourself, I think it's a lot easier to see yourself in the same exact space.
Now, Dani, I'm going to start with you on this one. I'm going to ask for when you first started, and then we'll go back later to where we are now. But how were you generating ideas for content in the beginning?
Ooh, okay. So the reason I started doing content was just because, you know, during the start of the pandemic, there wasn't a lot to do. So I was sewing, and TikTok was a fun thing to participate in. And so I think that, you know, it just kind of came naturally to be like, hey, let's take some silly sounds and do like a little lip sync to it, and put your own little spin on it. And so that's how it started out. Now it's
so let's get to the now.
very similar. I still do a lot of you know, kind of like a lip syncing type stuff. But it's definitely got a lot more production put into it, more purpose. Before I was just doing it because I was like, I just need something to keep me entertained. But now it's because people find a lot of joy in it, and I find joy and bring people joy. And so there's a lot more like purpose behind like why I do certain things in that creation process.
Nice. Heidi, I'm going to throw it to you for the same question. Starting with you, when you were first starting out, how were you generating ideas for your creations?
So, as a cosplayer, when I first started out, I didn't know cosplay existed. I was kind of like, basically I had a friend tell me that you couldn't get into an anime convention unless you were in full costume, which is very much a lie. But
Don't have those types of friends.
But because I did that, I had so much fun, and I was just like, I can't not go to an event in like normal clothes anymore. Like I need to be in costume. It was like a mental thing for me personally. And it was just a matter of like, oh, what can I do next? What's easy for me to do? What can I throw together for like a convention? What can I be comfortable in? Do I really like? What characters do I want to portray? So it was a lot of that type of stuff in the beginning, and it was a lot of just like people randomly coming up and asking for photos, and then weeks later finding them on Facebook and reposting them. So that was a lot of my beginner content. Now, I go into full production mode, full photo shoots, rent out studios, professional lighting, professional makeup, professional wigs, complete 180 where I'm like, I am going to do this character as much justice as I physically can to look exactly like them in the series, and I want to portray them to a T. Very different from me just throwing together a shirt and a skirt and being like, let's cosplay!
Now, you both brought up a really good point, which is from beginning to where you are now, it's the investment that you guys put into it. So when we're talking about content creation for beginners, and JPG, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Sure.
How much investment should we be putting into something like this?
Oh no, that was the worst question for me.
I know, that's
because we
why.
just had the talk yesterday about like how we have to find the work-life balance for this, right?
Was this a trap?
This was a little bit of a trap, yeah. I would say that the investment has to do with your goals, right? One of the first things that I talk about whenever you want to create content is why you are doing it. It's not what you do, it's not how you do it. Why are you doing it at this point, right? And if the answer is, oh, well, me and my friends are super funny and we think other people should listen to our podcast, that's a bad answer, right? There needs to be some sort of, I guess like, I would say like some sort of intrinsic or like external benefit when it comes to creating content, and then you can decide what like how much you're going to put into it.
Andrew?
So I think when you're coming at something as a beginner, I don't think you need to worry about buying everything that you need right away. Like, just start with what you have and see how it feels. See if you like doing whatever it is, if it's cosplay or if it's podcasting or making a TikTok. Don't overcommit, because you never know. It's not like buying that extra stuff is going to make you better at it. I have to tell myself that all the time. I'm always buying another microphone, and I'm like, oh, this one's a cooler microphone. Like, well, it's cooler, but I have microphones. I'm fine. I'm making the content that I want to make, and it's not necessarily, a need to invest a lot right at the beginning, right when you're starting.
Anais, you kind of mentioned before that your family is kind of part of this world a little bit, super kind of involved in it. So was it easier for you to kind of get into this? And if so, how would you recommend that kind of flow for people who don't have what?
I think what you're trying to ask is like, how is it when your family supports you in this stuff?
Yes, but in a really nice way.
Yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate. I would say having a built-in support system is definitely not something that everybody has. I'm very fortunate that my family we're all creatives and we all love making content together. So I would say if you don't have a support system like that, find your people. We're at a convention. Everybody in this room is wonderful. Go to your game stores, meet the people there. Don't be afraid to message people randomly online. I mean, that's how I met Dani, that's how I met JPG, just reaching out to people that you think that you would connect with, and not being afraid to collaborate with them in that way. I think I'm also pretty fortunate in that I chose TTRPGs as kind of the things that I like, which is an inherently social activity. So getting groups of people together and meeting people that way has been really wonderful. I've met lots of creatives that I've then went on to collaborate with. So just not being afraid to meet new people, I would say.
I'm getting a lot of head nods from Dani and Heidi, so I'm going to throw it to both of them for that same kind of idea with building community from the beginning. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
I can go if you, okay, well, shoot. I just really love people. I think that's something that's kind of been a defining part of who I am throughout my life. So just love people and like love making friends. And I've also just been like really privileged and lucky to meet my people, like you were saying, you know, the past few years. And you know, you will know when you meet them, you're just like, ah, yes, these are my people. And they'll inspire creativity in you. They'll inspire, you know, a drive and a motivation. And I don't want to cry, so I'm not going to keep going too much more. But if you don't have like a support system, like a family built in, like you can find your people. They don't have to be related by blood.
Yeah, social media is a big one for this. If you're like not in a creative field where you physically see people every week, like I know.
TTRPG?
Yeah. It's really early, sorry guys. But for cosplay and just Facebook message, Instagram DM, comment on the TikTok. As a community, we don't like to gatekeep our secrets. You want to know how I did this wig? I will give you the exact Amazon link I bought. I will give you the exact dye I did. I'll tell you exactly how many minutes I boiled that dye. So you can get it exactly how you want it. We want to make this community larger and inclusive, so we don't want to be like, oh no, I do it this way, I'm not going to tell you. We're very much not like that. And I am blessed that my mother helps me with a lot of my costumes. We're a mother-daughter team, so we, if you do have family that maybe doesn't really know what anime, cosplay, video games, comics are, they still might want to be involved in your life in those hobbies. So it doesn't hurt to reach out being like, hey, do you want to help me hot glue something? Or make it like a family activity, if they're open to hanging out with you.
Or a found family activity.
A found family activity, that's what I'm going for.
Now, Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this one, but JPG is coming for you.
Sure. That's ominous, thank you for that.
Well, because, you know, JPG's my husband, for people that don't know, so I know his background.
She's just bullying me for free this morning.
Andrew, what's something you know now that would have completely changed the game had you known when you were first starting out?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of things. There's a lot.
You're like, let me pull the scroll.
Yeah. It's really tricky to give one answer to that because the sum total of everything I've learned is like everything that I would want to tell me at the beginning. Like I would just say like, here's the list. You know, like there's so much. Like it's really difficult to put into words. It's like, you know, mic etiquette, like being close enough to the mic, actually having microphones is a big one.
Well, you're big on editing as well.
Editing, I mean, yes, there are ways that you can simplify your editing process depending on what your program that you're using. There's ways that you can kind of automate the posting process where you're posting your content. And there's so many things like that that I'm still learning about to this day. It's just always a learning process. So it's definitely, I mean, okay, if I had to sum it up, it'd be simplifying posting, making automatic posts, that kind of thing. Which, I mean, social media websites have been so much easier recently, yeah.
Right, they've definitely come up to that challenge, but I do know what you mean, because before when you're trying to figure it all out, you're doing 15 steps that could have been 5.
and you're like, I want to post this exactly at 9, so I have to wake up at 8:55 and be ready to hit post. Like now you just schedule it. It's crazy.
JPG, what about you? What would you say to past JPG?
I have two. I said this yesterday on a panel, but number one is you only get further from the kindness of strangers turned into friends. I say this a lot because you're going to meet people in your content creation process who are just going to be like, hey, I just want to hang out and I want to spitball, or like, hey, I would love to work with you on this, or if you could work with me on this, right? Those connections and those small kindnesses turn strangers into friends and build your content creation process a lot stronger. The other one is make sure that your communication with everybody is as transparent as possible. We did a panel yesterday about failing, like your failures in content creation, and I had a lot to say. And with that, right, like I think communication is key when it comes to it. So it's not just like, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's the over-communication process of this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is the reasoning behind it as well. So nobody can ever misconstrue what you're trying to do out here.
Now, Dani, how do you find a balance between creating content and still finding love in the things you're passionate about?
Well, it's such a great question, because I think a lot of times we can get caught up in like, oh, this is what I have to do, and you just, you overwhelm yourself. So balancing, I think it kind of depends on your brain. I think you have to like learn yourself and figure out what works for your brain. Because like for me, I have ADHD and I was diagnosed late in life. So I didn't have like these systems in place. And so for me, it helps to like sit down and map stuff out on paper to like hold myself accountable. Because if I just allow myself to go free reign, who knows what we're gonna get? Who knows where we're gonna end up at the end? So I hope that actually answers the question in the most ADHD fashion, like, ever.
Neurodivergent check. Where's everybody at?
Yeah. Hey, friends. What's up?
So I think it's really good advice to hear that kind of stuff, because a lot of times you're like, okay, well, they're doing it, but they're kind of put together, and I'm ADHD mess over here, like trying to figure my life out, and he's got 15 colors on his calendar. So I think, am I wrong?
But like, we're in public. But no, this was something that I was actually going to throw to you, right?
Oh, dang it.
Yeah, because I think you could answer this pretty well, especially as somebody who has somebody who's handling your whole calendar. Yeah.
Yes, as someone who handles my whole calendar, continue.
No. I meant like you answer the question that you asked. Dan.
Oh, how to find the balance?
Yeah, how to find the
dang.
balance.
So as somebody who works a 9-to-5 job and continued to do so during the pandemic in public, not at home, for me it was being okay with walking away. And I know how that sounds because we're talking about creation, but I realized I was trying to do too much and I was really overwhelmed, and I kept starting, of course, ADHD, starting a project, and none of them had my full 100%, and none of them were anything I was proud of. I didn't feel like I was putting my best, whether my best is, 1,000 people watching or one person watching, I didn't want to be disappointed in myself. And I very much felt like, okay, if I'm putting 10% here, 10% here, 10% here, or mush those all together, and even if it's just 50% of me, that's a better product and a better version of myself that I could put out there. So definitely being okay with walking away from some of the things I was doing to make one better thing. Okay. Oh.
I'd love to jump in and add this also.
And then Dani, because I saw you.
I would say keeping the passion is so important in what you're doing. I truly believe the best way that I'm able to manage that is by investing in other creative outlets as well. It's really hard. It's very tempting to monetize all your hobbies and try to monetize all of your creative outlets. But if you have other things that inspire you, like reading books or, like going to the theater or whatever you like to do, like if you're really into model building or anything like that, setting aside the time for you to invest creatively in that will spark the creative spark for your content as well. I feel like it's really easy to get like a creative block when you're working on something, when you have so much pressure riding on something and you have so much expectation for it to be really good. And I truly believe the best way to get out of that is just start writing something else. Like just write a short story, look up a prompt online, or read something, or spend some time doing something else, and eventually like those creative juices will get flowing and you'll be excited to create again. Yeah.
Dani wanted to jump on that.
Yes, so I think to add more to what I had been trying to get to earlier was like systems for ourselves, right? It's like develop little systems for ourselves. So like map things out if you need to on a piece of paper. Like I'm gonna do this week, this week. I'll be editing this week, shooting this week. Like for instance, for me, I found out that my best content creation type of schedule is to just film it all at once on one day, and then just schedule out when I'm going to edit different things so I can post them, and doing the scheduled posting because it's very handy to have, and that actually gives me a way to have a life, because otherwise I would be like dressing up every single day, posting a video, getting out of costume over and over and over, and that's not sustainable. So finding your systems.
I love it. Now, let's say we have an idea, but getting the idea from paper, from scheduling, from everything, to putting out there in the world. Heidi, how do you get past that roadblock of idea to production?
A lot of writing things down. Honestly, I am a person that works on deadlines, especially because I like to debut costumes at conventions, and conventions have dates almost a year in advance half the time, so I can mentally be like, okay, now I'm going to do this costume, and I know this is when I want to do it. So now it's just a middle point of when I'm going to schedule, like, am I going to make the top first? Am I going to make the bottom first? I need to buy fabric. I need to get a wig. It takes X amount of time for the wig to deliver. So a lot of that type of planning stuff, sadly, not very fun. Well, the creation and the building is fun, but the waiting for things to be delivered is not. Because you're like, I want to work on it right now, and you can't.
And
I have that problem.
Andrew, what about you? We know you have a million ideas when it comes to podcasts and things that you produce, but how do you get them from that idea stage into the world?
Well, I think a lot of it is actually, at least with podcasting, and I think a lot of content creation is collaboration. It's you have to, find someone that you're going to create with. And so through my podcast, it's always my co-host, I'll bring an idea to them, or they'll bring an idea to me, and we hash it out, we figure it out together, and then we go into the scheduling and all of that process. So it's kind of, don't go it alone. That's how it goes from idea to creation, is that if you're doing it, with other people, you can kind of keep each other in check, but also be excited to see what they're going to add to it. You'll have something different at the end, rather than, oh, I had one idea. By the end it could be an entirely different idea, but it's a better idea. It's an even greater creation.
Heidi and Andrew, you guys kind of sparked something that I wanted to
Is
say.
it because they said schedule?
Well, okay.
Oh.
Okay. 15 Google Calendar colors, by the way. So I was getting, like, if I don't get made fun of that for a panel, it's not a real panel.
Yeah, it's fair.
But you both said something, and I wanted to try to test this out. On the spectrum of, like, if done is on one side and if perfect is on the other, where are you on that spectrum when you do produce content?
Now we're at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, now, I guess. Like, are you closer to done or are you closer to perfect?
I would like to think I'm closer to perfect, but I do know that at a certain point, you've made your thing, and it has to go out in the world. if you're going to make something, you have to put it out. Like that's just the end goal on making content. And so you put everything that you can into it, and if that's not perfect, that's okay. I think people are going to be forgiving as long as it's entertaining or informative, if it brings something to the table that is interesting. It doesn't have to be 110%.
And then on the opposite spectrum, because cosplay is like an art form, it's always evolving. Nothing's ever done in my mind. Like next week I could be adding 3 different things to this costume. It's always evolving, something could be changing. So I don't ever call a cosplay finished. It can keep growing in different ways.
See, I'm very much of the idea of like a done, right? Because I know it's gonna suck a little bit, and I like posting it because then the next thing is gonna suck less than that. And I think that gives me that motivation, you know?
I mean, this isn't my panel, but I will say I think that's a huge roadblock that we first encountered. I also do podcasting, TTRPGs, and all that fun and Twitch streaming, so I promise I know what part of that is. But for me, I felt like when something was done, if we wanted to be perfect, then it just sat in our drafts forever. It sat on the editing table forever. And we never crossed that threshold into content creation. We were just, content, mine. So putting it out in the world, I think, was absolutely huge for us. I've got a Heidi and then a Dani.
I just want to say, don't strive for perfection, strive for what you're happy with.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain charm to like something not being perfect, right? Like the little imperfections. And it's genuine, and I think that comes across in your content too. Like if you think about like TikToks, and you know that's what I mostly know is like some of the more engaging ones are things that just that was not meant to happen. You know, people really enjoy seeing like the you side of it. They don't want to see this perfect polished image. And I mean, let's be real. Everyone's gonna forget about it in like 5 minutes anyways. So why be perfect?
Yeah, and I'm going to throw this one to you because you mentioned that you're working with lots of different people. TTRPGs obviously brings a community. We've mentioned schedules. So let's say you have a schedule, you have a plan, life happens. What is the next step to get it kind of back on track and still get that production done and out?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is an awesome question. Yeah, we are currently battling that right now, trying to set a date for filming season 2 of our actual play. But I would say just constant communication, checking in with people. I'll also say finding a group of people that you can rely on right at the beginning. I think a huge part of, you know, I have a theater background, and a lot of it is about casting, right? It's finding the right people for the project. I think that for something collaborative like TTRPGs, it's very similar. And so finding a group of people that you can rely on, that you know will be communicative, is essential. Especially for actual, well, it's definitely gonna make your life a lot easier. So I would say there's the preemptive labor of finding the right people and putting them through the kind of like interview, like vetting process that you do when you're casting an actual play. That'll definitely save you a lot of time. If you're already past that and life has happened and it's difficult, just approaching everything from a place of empathy, I think, is really important too, because, you know, we're all creatives and we don't know what's going on in each other's lives, and it could be something, you know, a lot. So just giving people the grace and not building up resentment for them stalling your production is really important. And yeah, just coordinating. I'm a big fan of like check-in meetings and production calls. I think that can really, if you have a regular set call when you're just gonna add a checklist of all the things that you're gonna go through, I think that's really important. For our actual plays on Infinite Sided Dice, they're kind of big, lots of people are involved. And we have a lot of things to talk about, so it can be kind of challenging to get everything talked about and settled. But you know, just knowing that you have the right people and that it'll all come together at the end is really helpful.
Now, JVG, you also tend to put together a lot of different creations, so kind of same question for you.
Can you repeat it?
Now, who's the ADHD?
Did I talk in circles too much?
No.
My question was just, you've got everything you've scheduled, which we know you have, and it's color
Yes.
coordinated, and you've sent 5 million emails
Okay.
that are all way too professional. And then it gets close to that date, and something goes awry, life happens.
Okay.
How do you get then past that point into actual production?
Do as I say, not as I do, but take a break. Okay? Take a break. The reason why you got off track is that something happened. Something that was unusual or unique or something, right? Take a small break, reassess where you're at, then reschedule. Yeah, but that's definitely a do as I say, not as I do thing.
Now, what was the best piece of advice that was given to you when you first got started? Dani, I'm going to start with you on this one.
I think the piece of advice that comes to mind is something I actually got pretty recently, which was like stop and think about what you want to do. What's your goal? Why are you making this? Or what are you wanting to head towards? Because for me, I like to, as many of us neurodivergents do, put our fingers in all the pies. We just want to try every single thing. But recently, when I was talking to somebody about help me with my career, they were like, you just gotta focus in on like the thing you want to do, and then just start doing it. Because you can, you know everything you need to do, but you're just distracted by all the things. So I think sometimes we just have to stop and like evaluate, and from there, then we can create a roadmap in our head on how to get there. We just have to figure out what we want first. And sometimes that takes a moment to be really truthful and honest with yourself.
Heidi, what about you? What was a really good piece of advice? It was a really good piece of advice, by the way. Heidi, what was a good piece of advice that you were given when you were first starting out?
Iron your costumes.
So true.
But really, it's the best advice I was given is to honestly, for me as a cosplayer, cosplay characters you love, not just because they're popular. Don't just be like, oh, Demon Slayer's trending. I've never seen that. I'm gonna do Tanjiro. Do that character from that side character from that movie that you absolutely know every every word to. And you'll have a lot more fun with who you're dressing up as, who you're creating the item of, because you love that thing versus something that's just popular.
And Andrew, what about you?
Have fun. I think that's a piece of advice that really resonates, because if you're not having fun, why are you creating? Like, you have to create something that you are, as I said, something you're passionate about. Like, make sure that it doesn't feel like a grind. It doesn't feel like something where it's like, well, I have to do this. Like, no, you kind of don't have to do this. You can make something else. Find something that you really do enjoy.
Now, Dani, I'm going to start with you on this one. You mentioned TikTok a few times. How important is social media, and what are you doing to tie it into your creation?
Well, I think social media is kind of tied to everything I do. Whether it be TTRPGs, actual plays, and different cosplay stuff. Everything has to be posted on social media. And so, remind me, what was the specific question about that? It was...
I don't even remember now.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, that's our brains.
Yep.
How are you tying it into your creation?
Oh yeah, how do I tie it in? So like everything I do is social media, but I think where the technical part of that comes in is like just throwing things at the wall and seeing what works. Because I've posted like at the weirdest times, like at like midnight, and then like wake up to it like popping. And I'm like, how? You all should be asleep. Right. So Yeah, I think that with social media, it's a large part of everything we do as content creators. So you have to like learn social media and you have to learn how to use it. And that is a lot of science experimenting. You know, if you need help, I guess I can try to help you. Just let me know after the panel.
Now, Heidi, a lot of what you do also ties into social media, so I'm going to throw that to you as well.
My whole content creation is slightly around social media. Instagram and Facebook is kind of like my go-to. I try to TikTok, I'm just really bad at it.
We'll sit with Dani after the panel and she can help you.
We have 5 of the songs.
It's a strange beast.
But it's just a lot of trial and error when it comes to finding platforms that you thrive on mentally, what you think is best for you. I will say one thing about social media is don't get caught up in your follows, don't get caught up in your likes. That's going to be a major, like, pew, 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 pew. That part doesn't matter. So that's what I'll say about social media.
Now, you said something I just want to
Yeah, I
repeat.
keep saying on things.
No, it's a good thing. Do the platforms that you can handle mentally.
Yeah.
And I think that is such an important line. So JPG,
Oh no.
as someone who had a little bit of a Twitter thing,
Oh, come on.
how do you push past when things aren't going well on those platforms mentally?
A little bit of the background on this. I think everybody on this panel has gone viral positively. I went viral last year negatively for a panel that I did at Comic-Con that nobody knew what they were talking about. It's a weird place to be in when what you did was for your culture, but then you receive death threats from people. And you know, this is the darker side of content creation, where I honestly thought I was putting out something wholesome and something that talked about the like the Filipino diaspora experience, and people were not receptive of it. And I can tell you, and I can sit here and tell you, well, okay, that's going to blow over, nobody's going to remember, but you are. You personally are going to remember. And putting things in place to where you can take care of yourself mentally was definitely something that I didn't have. And I think what made the time bearable was were the people around me. I work with Tess Huth, and she's a TTRPG creator out on the East Coast, and she knew that I was having such a hard time with just seeing all of the threats online. And she responded to every one of them as if she was going to beat them up, and it was incredible, right? And don't do that. But to offer your support in the moment where you go viral negatively is going to be very important for your community.
Can I just add on one thing about that? Because we say it a lot, but sometimes it doesn't get through everyone's head. Just remember when you're commenting online, one hurtful comment overrides like 10 positive comments for a creator. So if you personally say it's like, I don't like that character, I'm gonna say like, nah, nah, nah. That content creator will remember that. Nah, nah, nah.
Yeah, we remember it forever. Like every mean comment, and I wish we didn't, and I wish there was some sort of way that we could build something as a community to just wipe these from our memories, but unfortunately we can't.
Someone called me a rat once.
Oh.
That's like stuck in me. It was like 10 years ago now, but it's still there. So just be aware of what you're commenting and saying online. Sorry, just wanted to add.
No, please.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add is if you ever do find yourself in a position online where you're like, maybe you said something wrong or you did something and people are like, that's not okay. A lot of times you'll see people double down, and that's what you don't want to do. Like if you make a mistake and people call you out on it, like be thankful that they were, you know, willing to like tell you what you did wrong, and take that with like acceptance and a little bit of humility, some humbleness, and just like sit with it. Don't be reactive, and just like accept the correction, thank them, and then, you know, do what you have to make it right to people. But just if you did wrong, it's okay to be wrong. We're humans, and you don't have to be perfect. So just, yeah, I think that will help you grow as a person and as a creator, because when people see you have the humility to change and like accept criticism, like people have respect for that. Versus if you were to just double down and be terrible.
Now, I took us a little off the rails on that one, but I think social media is very intertwined in what we're doing and how we're putting things out there. So it was kind of an important one, but I'm going to bring it back to creating, again, we're talking about for beginners, so we're just getting started, but I'm going to switch it just slightly to the next step. You've now been creating content for a little bit. How do you take it from that beginning level that you're at to the next step? So we've already started, we're putting stuff out there. What's the next step look like for you? Anais, I'm going to start with you, but Andrew, I'm coming to you.
The next step. Well, I feel like this is gonna go against literally everything we just said. It's not negating it. It's not negating it at all.
So now you've been creating content for a while, and you've built the mental fortitude needed to fight the haters, feel good about yourself, and kind of dust it off. Data analytics are going to be one of your best friends, I would
Yeah,
say.
get ready for math, y'all.
Numbers!
Well, so our channel, Infinite Sided Dice, is mostly, we mainly post on YouTube. YouTube Studio is a great resource, and they really break down kind of like how well your videos are doing, and just keeping an eye on that, because analyzing that and like making reports of that data to kind of pitch to potential advertisers or other creators. Like I said before, a lot of like finding your community is just being fearless and reaching out to people. And it's a lot easier to reach out to people to collaborate with you when you can show them the numbers, right? Look, all of these people liked our video. Look at the percentage of likes to views, right? That's also very important. So that's going to help you a lot. And then, you know, having your little elevator pitch. Not to be too businessy, I know that's JPG's job.
How dare
But if you have like just a couple sentences of what your show's about, you know. So for example, like our Cyberpunk Red actual play, if I'm talking to somebody who maybe doesn't know too much about TTRPGs, I'll say, oh, do you know about Critical Role? Yeah, we do something kind of like that, but for Cyberpunk. And that's the pitch, right? Or just anything shorter like that, using different kind of reference pull points that you can do. It's like a tabletop game, but it's like a heist movie meets Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is another one. So just being able to brand yourself and market yourself in that way is really good. And all of that because you've gained the mental fortitude to deal with mean people online, and you can handle that. And then you can start thinking about it more like a business.
And Andrew, see, I told you it was coming to you.
I think I kind of have two different answers for this, but they could be connected. When you're just starting out, maybe it's just you and the people that you know, and that's who you're working with. So the next step would be you grow your circle. You reach out to someone that you don't know. You reach out to someone that you follow and that you like their stuff, and you think that they'd be willing to work with you on something. That's one way to go from beginner to like intermediate, the next step of it. But I think another way to look at it would be, you know, for me, I did a podcast when I started out, and we did 300 episodes, and I said, you know what? I'm ready for the next podcast. I'm ready to put this one away and start a new podcast with a different concept, and that could be the next step too. Like that, if you are creating one kind of thing, and you go, I think I've done everything I can with this one kind of thing. Let me try making another kind of thing. That could be a form of a next step as well. I think a lot of people feel like they're stuck in one way because that's how they started, but being willing to grow into another form is another way of having a next step.
Hard agree. Hard agree.
JBG, raise your hand.
I would say that the next step for that I try to give to clients is do anything that you can in order to be unique and stand out. This was something that we had struggled with, Alex and I had struggled with when we were first starting our show, gosh, like 12 years ago. And
Thanks for aging us.
I'm sorry. I had an issue with people not taking me seriously, so my idea was to wear suits, like full suits at every convention that we were. And like, do you think I want to look like a cool school teacher right now on a Sunday morning?
He does.
Like, I really don't. I'm vacuum sealed and sweating in this thing right now. But it does, people tend to remember, like, oh, that was the guy in the suit the whole time, right? So I would say that when you can, do what it takes to stand out and be unique.
So for the last question, I am actually going to ask all of you, so we'll go down the line. And it's just, what's the biggest piece of advice you can give to somebody who's starting out? This is content creation for beginners, so they're already there. What's the best piece of advice you could hand out?
Oh boy. I feel like there's a lot of things that we could say, like, just do what you love and all of that. And yes, you should do that. But I think one of the most important questions, which I kind of touched on earlier, is just, why? Ask yourself why. And figure out what that is. For me, the answer is because it brings me joy and it brings other people joy. And that's what keeps me going when there's days that I'm like exhausted, right? So ask yourself why. It'll give you the purpose and drive behind what you do. And I could probably give you so many different tips for, different social media tips and stuff, but if you need a little scheduling thing, I use Buffer, and that one's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So there's a practical tip you can take with you, is check out Buffer.
I think I would say make sure that you have your own spin on whatever you're doing, your own take, your own voice. Come to it with something that is at least a little bit unique in what you're creating. Don't just do a podcast about movies. Do a podcast about one movie. Do a podcast about one genre of movies. Do something about a very niche idea that you're not even sure if other people will care about, but when you make it, and if you put it out there and tell people about it, maybe they'll go, oh, I didn't even know that I wanted to know more about that thing or hear people talk about that thing, but you're making it. You're making the one thing that no one else is making.
Yeah, I would say the best leaders are very good collaborators. If you're planning on leading a project, you want to listen to everybody in the room. You want to listen to the expertise of those around you, because I guarantee everybody that you work with is better than you at something and knows a lot more about you, about other things than you do. So just listening to the folks around you and trusting them and working to combine your creative visions is going to create a really healthy working environment. And if you are leading a team, whether you're a game master or you're a producer on a podcast or anything like that, it's your responsibility to create an environment where everybody feels respected and safe enough to work at their creative best.
To keep it short and sweet, don't be afraid to ask for help if you have questions on items, and YouTube tutorials are your best friend.
And for sake of time, because I did want to say thank you to
That's
volunteers.
my job.
Yeah. Well, because they gave us this offsite, so I wanted to make sure. Yeah. So I'm going to save my answer. If you would like to talk about like where you think you want to start in content creation, we're going to be right outside hanging out, so we can answer some of your questions as well.
Can we get a round of applause for the volunteers, please? Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good time.